At the roof of the world, upon the freezing cliffs far beyond the easy reach of human eyes, life is stripped of all adornment, leaving only its purest essence. There are no lush forests, no flowing streams, only eternal glaciers and a desolate wind that forever howls through the stone crevices. Within this seemingly lifeless world of silver and white, a proud and ethereal soul is concealed, walking soundlessly between loose rocks and accumulated snow, like a guardian spirit conjured by the mountains themselves. Tonight, let us sit by the gently flickering hearth, and with this story that requires no effort to remember, step into his true life. This creature, known as the snow leopard, passes each long night in the place furthest from prosperity, using a near-cruel clarity and an extremely gentle certainty. In this clamorous world, bustling activity is often the norm for survival, but for him, solitude is nature's deepest bestowal. His lungs are born adapted to the thin air high upon the mountains, a fatal lock of destiny that would bring suffocation should he ever descend to the valleys. Yet he never resists this fate of being confined to the high altitudes. He simply lies quietly on the moonlit stone cliff as night falls, overlooking the boundless mortal world beneath him. When the cold wind at the mountain peaks begins to bite, he makes an exceptionally tender gesture. He slowly pulls over his massive, fluffy tail, which is nearly equal to his body length, and properly wraps it around his face. It is a posture that can instantly calm anyone who witnesses it. The thick, long tail not only locks in the remaining warmth of his breath but acts like a plush wall, insulating him from all external blizzards and disruptions. The stars in the night sky gleam with a ghostly blue light reflected by the glaciers, and the solitary dreamscape belonging to the snow leopard quietly unfolds within this absolute silence. The night in the mountains always arrives with exceptional abruptness. As the golden sunset fades from the final peak, the cold surges forth like a tide from the stone crevices in all directions. For the snow leopard living alone above the snowline, every single night is a spiritual practice to be faced entirely on his own. His silver-gray coat, adorned with black rosette patterns, is a perfect camouflage gained after thousands of years of tempering by wind and snow, allowing him to blend tracelessly into this wasteland of jagged crags. Yet this ultimate concealment bears an unavoidable, absolute loneliness at its back. In the life sequence of the snow leopard, there are no gatherings in large numbers, nor any dawn-to-dusk companionship. From the day he leaves his mother, 1 kilometer after another of desolate mountain ridges becomes his sole traveling companion. This ultimate endurance of solitude becomes the first fracture in his destiny, rendering his nights long and without end. When a storm tears through the clouds in the night sky, letting out a thunderous roar, he can only find a protruding rock on his own, pressing his body tightly against the hard stone wall. The rock is freezing, the wind is piercing, yet there is not a shred of panic in his emerald eyes, only a near-detached composure. He waits for the storm to pass, waits for the night to return to stillness. This prolonged endurance is not because he is dull, but because upon this land, impulsiveness means destruction, and tranquility is the sole card for survival. The breeze brushes past his wide paws, whose thick pads make no sound at all among the loose stones, as if he himself were a stubborn crag within these mountains, insensate yet indestructible. It is precisely this destiny that cannot be shared with his kind that has forced the snow leopard over the long years to learn a profoundly poetic way to care for his own weariness. Since he cannot alter the severity of the wind and snow, he learns to find a warm haven within his own body. In the deepest, coldest hours of the night, when even the air seems to solidify, he comes to the familiar stone cave that serves as his only home among the mountains. He slowly settles his body down, tucking his limbs beneath his chest, and then that thick, plush tail, which accounts for the greater part of his weight, begins to move elegantly. He gently draws the tip of his tail to his nose, following the contours of his face, burying his entire countenance into that thick, soft layer of fur. The hair upon his tail is dense and warm, and as his breath pats against it, a tiny microclimate belonging entirely to him is formed. Within this world circled by his tail, there is no cutting wind to tear his skin, no freezing cold from scraping rocks, only his most familiar temperature and even breaths. This wondrous physiological mechanism is not merely a tool against the cold for the snow leopard, but rather a spiritual ritual, allowing him to gain a fleeting sense of security upon this desolate cliff. Listening to his muffled, rhythmic breathing filtering through the fur, the restlessness of the entire mountain range seems to subside along with it. Life has found its most introverted expression here, seeking not a single shred of warmth from the outside world, but simply using its own body to fulfill its own safe sleep. This is a self-healing wisdom derived from ancient times, and the most dignified, gentle reconciliation a solitary being can make when facing nature. Beyond this comforting sleeping posture, the snow leopard's movement and hunting among the mountains similarly reveal a high level of restraint and elegance. The scree slopes high above are exceptionally steep and unstable. The slightest careless step could trigger a thunderous rockslide, thereby exposing his presence. Thus, he evolved the most perfect balancing organ in the natural world, that thick, long tail, which sways gently in the air like a helicopter's rotor when he leaps between sheer cliffs, helping him precisely correct every single deviation of his center of gravity. Each time he vaults across a chasm several meters wide, he appears so light and soundless, like a gray feather cradled by the wind, landing firmly upon a ledge barely large enough for his feet. This elegance walked upon the brink of life and death is the pride in his bones, and a tacit understanding born of his long observation of this treacherous terrain that he never hunts blindly. More often, he sits at the highest point of a formation known as the moonlit cliff, quietly overlooking the movements of the blue sheep in the valley below. He can maintain a single posture, sitting silently for hours, letting the falling snow pile high upon his head and shoulders, turning him into a true snow sculpture. That prolonged stillness carries a spellbound magic, as if even the flow of time has stagnated around him. With this ultimate patience and restraint, he writes a wordless hymn of survival and mechanics at the perilous edge of the high skies. When he finally takes a step into the dark night, that fleeting silhouette is not for conquest, but solely to sustain his dignified life in this freezing world. This restraint of the snow leopard is even more deeply manifested within their exceptionally rare communication and relational tension. In their vast territories, two snow leopards may never see each other more than a few times in a lifetime, yet they maintain a mutual understanding across the mountains through a highly respectful, silent language. He will leave his claw marks upon the rocks or gently rub his face against protruding stone corners, leaving a scent mark completely unique to himself. These markings can persist for months in the freezing air. When another solitary wanderer passes by, he needs only to lower his head slightly to sniff and read the message left by his predecessor. Someone has been here, and this place is filled with peace. Through this method, they build an invisible bridge of communication across the glaciers, maintaining absolute respect for each other's territory while gaining a sliver of solace in their icy solitude from the existence of their kind. And only in the early spring of each year, when the ice and snow show a faint sign of thawing, does the quiet valley occasionally echo with the snow leopard's slightly hoarse, long, and ethereal call. It is not a ferocious roar, but a gentle long howl filled with searching and testing, reverberating tier upon tier through the empty mountains, piercing deep canyons, and drifting toward the distant heavens. Those are rare moments in their lives when they express longing to the outside world. Each long howl is like a wordless love poem written for this lonely wilderness, restrained, deep, yet carrying a shred of fatalistic sorrow. When a response echoes faintly from another mountain peak, the two solitary souls slowly draw closer in the night, completing the most vital yet briefest intersection of their lives, before turning away once more to vanish back into their respective solitudes. With the turning of the eras, even this paradise soaring into the clouds has begun to feel the inevitable squeeze and intrusion of the low-altitude human world. The slow warming of the global climate causes the originally stable snowline to retreat higher year by year, while the degradation of the pastures below forces herders and their flocks to migrate to higher, steeper slopes. This invisible pressure ruthlessly shatters the ancient covenant preserved between the snow leopard and this land for thousands of years. When livestock occupy the territory that originally belonged to the wild blue sheep, the starved snow leopard, through countless blizzard-ridden nights, is forced to face a difficult and painful choice, whether to continue enduring hunger among the barren scree, or to risk moving toward the human pens glowing with faint lantern light that end certain most agonizing moments of fate. When he is trapped within a herder's sturdy fence for preying upon a goat, his originally proud soul is forced to confront cold barbed wire and furious shouts. Faced with this extreme dilemma of the era, he does not explode into the destructive, frenzied counterattack of a lion or a tiger. He merely curls up quietly in a corner, using those green eyes filled with starlight to gaze coldly at the surrounding crowd. There is no begging in that gaze, no fury, only a detachment and sorrow that has seen through the cycle of life. This silent confrontation is the fiercest yet quietest collision between alpine civilization and modern industrial civilization. Anyone who understands the price behind it will feel a deep helplessness and heartache in the deep of the night. Fortunately, as humans who understand reverence begin to establish protective borders, the snowline upon the mountains has finally regained its peace in some places, allowing him to retreat once more to the highest peak belonging to him, free from disruption. The night has deepened to the utmost, and the wind at the roof of the world has finally ceased entirely. The entire glacier gleams under the magnificent starry river with a dreamlike, freezing brilliance. That silver river spanning the night sky is so close that it feels as though one could scoop up a palmful of stardust simply by standing upon the stone cliff where the snow leopard rests. By now, he has completely curled up in the depths of the stone cave hollowed out by the wind, that massive, fluffy tail wrapped seamlessly around his entire face, leaving only two small ears to occasionally twitch slightly in his sleep to the faint sound of a distant glacier cracking. I and the introduction of our story. We once sought to explore the eternal riddle of his facing the blizzard alone, but now, we witness within this life the purest self-sufficiency and internal strength. Although nature stripped away his possibility of settling in the warm valleys, it granted him the entire mountain range as his throne and the cleanest starry sky as his blanket. He requires no redundant clamor to prove his existence. His lifelong restraint and composure are the most noble interpretation of life. This story of high-altitude watching has quietly reached its curtain call, like a single snowflake drifting slowly from the night sky, melting silently upon the quiet ice field. The world has quieted down completely, and the night sky of the mountains will watch over you with its purest power. You do not need to experience his solitude, nor do you need to face his blizzards. At this very moment, you need only relax every single one of your cells, just like that snow leopard burying his face within his warm tail. Close your eyes, and let all your thoughts land softly in this atmosphere of ether and peace, sinking together with the dimming hearth into the deepest, sweetest dreamland. Good night.